Good morning. Good morning. First of all, this is very
Please
important
state your
to
name
me.
for the record, Mr. Checo.
Huh?
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Checo Yancey with VOTE, Policy Director. First of all, I thank Senator Duplessis for bringing this bill. It's very important to me because I can remember my grandparents trying to vote, and God willing, in November I'll be 81. And here we are 80 years later fighting for fair rights to vote. When you look at SB365, this will help everyone. It will help remove the barriers. We can have fair elections. We can have transparency and integrity. We can stop just closing polling places and not letting folks know. And when we look at the physical note listed a while ago, less than $1 million, to me, money should not be a problem. We spend money on everything else. We lock up more people per capita than anywhere in the world. I'm a former incarcerated person. I got my voting rights back. I can remember at that time he was a state representative. Now he's a senator, Miller, when he gave me my voting rights. And now I vote in every election. I don't miss an election. All people should want this, whether they are independent. Since you took the independent away and closed now, so it should be now for everyone. Every political party should want fair elections. Right now, every vote should count. We know that every vote counts. People have won by 1 and 2 votes. So every vote counts. So I'm urging you to pass this bill, 365. Finally, I'm a veteran. I served in the United States Air Force. I went in the military in 1962. And guess what? It was hard to vote then, even with my blue uniform on. And here we are now going through the same thing. So I urge you, I ask you, and right now I'm going to look at Senator Klein Peter right in the eye. You are the chairman. I know you carry a lot of weight. Pass this bill for the people of the state of Louisiana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Mr. Yancey.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Bruce Riley with VOTE. When I came to this state 15 years ago, where my ancestors were from, I was on probation for something I did as a teenager. And I actually lost my right to vote by crossing state lines. And so because I came here to go to law school, of all things, I immediately started looking into the legal histories of voting rights here in Louisiana. And I ended up publishing a law review article in Loyola's journal called The Racial History of Felon Disenfranchisement in Louisiana. And the thing that I learned was prior to black people voting, there was only 4 crimes that would keep people from voting. They were perjury, bribery, forgery, and high crimes and misdemeanors. These are all crimes that one could argue during the time of paper ballots, one might be trying to manipulate the vote. So there's a relationship between the criminal activity and the actual ballot box. But then after black people got the right to vote, all of a sudden that got expanded out to all crimes. And we know that there's other things that got expanded out to all crimes, such as jury service, and the 9 unanimous jury was an issue that was being used as well. And so people were getting criminalized at the same time as losing their voting rights. And that went along with a lot of other things, such as, it turned out that the literacy of white people was about 75%, and the literacy of black people was about 25%, at a time when black and white voting was around the same in 1896. And so what they did was they used literacy as the tool. Not black people or white people, they used literacy. And so way more black people got disenfranchised than white people. And so that set up a first part of the 20th century where under 10% of black people who had the right to vote were actually able to cast a vote. And so what's important about the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and what we're talking about here today is that we need to have these added layers of protection so these other tools can't be used as ways to attack people and to ways to disenfranchise people. I had to sue, along with Checo and others, for my right to vote. We actually won. We have passed legislation, as Checo mentioned here, with support of many of you here, to get our right to vote. And we actually even got the ability to serve on a jury, which is getting peeled back right now. And so the criminal records is a key tool that's being disproportionately enforced. And then when that gets used as a voting rights mechanism, that's a problem, because then it impacts disproportionately black people. We have not heard a legitimate reason why people who live in the community, whether they be on probation or parole, should be allowed or should not be allowed the right to vote, should not be encouraged to participate in civic engagement. We've not heard a legitimate reason for why people who are detained in jail, just accused of a crime, should not be allowed access to the ballot. But last week, on the other side of this building, we heard from the Secretary of State that they didn't want to even give any reasons. They didn't want to engage in a bill whatsoever which would extend the absentee ballot to people who are detained in jail. And they even mentioned this bill as another bill that they didn't want to engage in. And I found that to be really troubling, that they're going to list out these bills that talk about voter protections, that talk about people being able to cast their right to vote, and they don't want to be here, they don't want to engage. So I find it really the type of thing, I don't know why anyone would be against this. We talk about voter integrity, voter protection, and we either got to be true to the word, or we're just, lying to people's faces and doing things behind the scenes. So I think that we really need to take this stuff seriously and look at different ways that voting rights can be assaulted, because that's the history of this state, that's the history of this country, particularly the history of the South. And we got to take this stuff seriously. And if we don't, no one else will. And it's really on you guys at this stage of the game to move this bill through. Really encourage you to get this to the Senate floor. It's extremely important, and we cannot pretend that disenfranchisement doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We can clear the table.